Good evening and welcome to tonight's latest news bulletin, coming to you live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. His Excellency the Foreign Minister confirms that the fourth round of the Iranian-American negotiations will commence tomorrow in Muscat. Martyrs and wounded in Israeli shelling of various areas in the Gaza Strip, and the United Nations calls on the Security Council to urgently intervene to lift the blockade and end Israel's starvation policy in the Gaza Strip. And US President Donald Trump says that India and Pakistan have agreed on an immediate full ceasefire after an American mediation. Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. His Excellency Sayyid Badr bin Hamad bin Hamud Al Busaidi, the Foreign Minister, confirmed that after coordinating with the Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States of America, the fourth round of negotiations will commence tomorrow in Muscat, noting that the third round of the negotiations between the Iranian and the American sides, which was held in Muscat, discussed the basic principles, objectives and technical concerns. The United Nations welcomed the efforts of the Sultanate of Oman in a ceasefire agreement between the United States of America and the relevant authorities in Sana'a, the Republic of Yemen, to achieve de-escalation, freedom of navigation and the prevention of targeting ships in the Red Sea and Bab al-Mandab. United Nations Deputy Spokesperson Stephanie Tremblay expressed her hope that this agreement would contribute positively to freedom of maritime navigation in the region and the smooth flow of international commercial shipping in accordance with international law. She affirmed the United Nations support for the Yemeni parties to reach a negotiated political settlement to end the conflict, exercise restraint and de-escalate, calling on all parties to cooperate constructively with the United Nations Special Envoy to Yemen, Hans Grundberg. Seven Palestinians, including 5 members of one family, were murdered and others injured in Israeli shelling of various areas in the northern and southern Gaza Strip. The Palestinian Ministry of Health stated that Israeli warplanes bombed 10 sheltering displaced persons in the Sabra neighborhoods of Gaza City, killing 5 members of one family. Meanwhile, Israeli drones targeted a group of Palestinians in the Tufah neighborhood of Gaza City, killing another person. Gunboats also opened heavy fire towards the shores of Rafah, killing a child and wounding others. The United Nations called on the Security Council to urgently intervene to lift the blockade and end Israel's starvation policy in the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian government office in Gaza called for the dispatch of independent international investigation missions to document the crimes and hold the occupation authorities accountable. US President Donald Trump has said that India and Pakistan have agreed on an immediate full ceasefire following mutual attacks on military installations for the 4th day. This comes after U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio managed to convince both sides after several meetings involving a group of officials from both countries. He indicated that a wide range of issues would be discussed in a neutral location. Officials from both sides expressed their willingness to de-escalate for the time being after today's exchange of fire. The commanders-in-chief of the Indian and Pakistani military operations are scheduled to meet again for talks on May 12th. Fears have grown about the potential use of both countries' nuclear arsenal after the Pakistani military said that the highest military and civilian body overseeing its nuclear weapons would hold a meeting. The Kremlin said that Russia will demand that the U.S. and European arms supplies to Ukraine be halted during any potential ceasefire. This comes as a summit is being held today in the Ukrainian capital, bringing together the leaders of Britain, France, Germany and Poland for talks with the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky in a show of European support for Kiev. European media sources said that the summit will discuss a U.S. and European proposal for a 30-day ceasefire in the Russian-Ukrainian war, including the imposition of new joint sanctions on Moscow if it rejects the proposal. In a joint statement, the leaders of these countries called for Russia to agree to a complete and unconditional 30-day ceasefire to allow for talks on a just and lasting peace. China's Vice Premier He Lifeng held today talks with U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in Geneva. The official Xinhua news agency reported in a first step towards diffusing a trade war that has disrupted the global economy. The two countries are meeting after weeks of escalating tensions that have led to a significant increase in import tariffs between world's two largest economies, exceeding 100%. The trade disputes, along with U.S. President Donald Trump's decision last month to impose tariffs on dozens of other countries, has disrupted supply chains, destabilized financial markets, and fueled fears of a sharp global economic slowdown. On Friday, Trump announced the possibility of reducing the tariffs to 80% from 145%. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and yet to come in our news bulletin. Scientists serve up edible robotic wedding cake aiming to highlight sustainable solutions for reducing waste. Once again, welcome to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Sohar Industrial City received approximately 62 investments applications last year, of which 38 projects were localized, with investments exceeding 87 million Omani riyals. These projects are being built on areas exceeding 476,000 square meters, bringing the total investment volume in the industrial city to 2.3 billion Omani riyals. Engineer Abdullah bin Ahmed Al-Mayasi, Director General of Sohar Industrial City, stated that the Ladin Plastic Industries Complex in the industrial city has localized 16 projects with investments exceeding 31 million Omani riyals. The utilized area represents approximately 13% of the total area allocated to it. With investments exceeding 77 million Omani riyals, QS Maritime, the operator of Shinas Port, is preparing to begin development work at the port before the end of this year. Construction is expected to last 5 to 7 years. The Chief Executive Officer of QS Maritime stated that the projects will be awarded to a company specializing in port and marine development. The first phase of the projects will include expanding the port's current dock to the south, in addition to constructing a new breakwater on the north side to enable the port to receive larger vessels and enhance its operational efficiency. He added that the port's area has been expanded to approximately 1.8 million square meters in preparation for promising projects, including the constructions of fuel tanks and factories and various stores. Marking its 5th consecutive year, Oman Flour Mills has begun receiving over 5,000 tons of locally grown wheat, reinforcing its commitment to supporting Omani farmers and enhancing national food security. More detail coming up in this report. Oman Flour Mills has kicked off the reception of over 8,000 metric tons of locally grown wheat for the current season, marking the 5th year of its successful wheat procurement initiative. The milestone was celebrated at the ceremony held in Matrah under the patronage of His Excellency Dr. Ahmed Al-Bakri and the Secretary for Agriculture. Through this initiative run in partnership with the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Water Resources, the company continues to empower Omani farmers, providing them with a stable market and encouraging wider cultivation of high-quality local wheat known as burr.
We strongly believe that the Omani wheat is a result of dedication and experience that the Omani farmers begins with, starting from the very first seed all the way to the harvest. And we at the quality departments continue the journey what the Omani farmers are actually started with, starting from receiving the wheat, storing it, milling it, and producing the product that represents the best quality of Omani signature.
Chief Executive Officer Haytham Al-Fanda highlighted that the program not only uplifts rural incomes and strengthens agricultural communities, but also reinforces Oman's food security by integrating Omani wheat into the local value chain. The locally produced burr flour stands as the first 100% Omani wheat flour product in the Sultanate history. By reducing reliance on imports, supporting transport and storage sectors, and upholding sustainability and food safety standards, Oman Flour Mills is advancing national goals under Oman Vision 2040 and building a resilient, locally rooted food industry. The 20th School Student Literary Creativity Forum was concluded in the Ad-Dakhiliya Governorate with 460 submissions across various genres. This year's edition was a showcase of young literary talent in schools. Here is a report on that.
School students from across the Ad-Dakhiliya Governorate gathered for the 20th edition of the Student Literary Creativity Forum. With more than 460 entries, the forum was a space where students put their thoughts into poetry, stories, plays, essays and reflections, sharing their voices in innovative ways. We launched the Student Literary Creativity Forum 20 years ago to nurture students' literary talents. From the start, we have worked to encourage schools to support these gifted students and present their work to the wider community. From powerful poems to heartfelt essays and thoughtful plays, students used the Arabic language as a voice. Their work showed maturity, imagination, and a real sense of self-expression. I started by memorizing poems from the pre-Islamic era to modern poetry styles. Step by step, I grew, and today I have reached a level where I can express myself through classical poetry, and I am truly grateful. The closing ceremony not only recognized students' creativity, but also inspired them to sharpen their craft, thus opening doors to future opportunities both at home and beyond. Each story and script the students wrote was a seed, planting promise in the soil of Omani literature. Reporting from the Wilaya of Nizwa, this is Saleh Bukhalfan Al-Rahbi, Ad-Dakhiliya Governorate.
And finally, a Swiss-Italian team has created the world's first edible robotic wedding cake, an innovation fusion of dessert and technology. Here is a report on that.
A Swiss-Italian team has unveiled an edible robotic wedding cake featuring dancing gummy teddy bears and chocolate-encased edible batteries that power LED candles. Called Robocake, the project blends robotics with culinary expertise and aims to highlight sustainable solutions for reducing waste and potential applications in health and environmental monitoring. Robocake was developed by researchers from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne, the Italian Institute of Technology, and pastry chefs and food scientists from the Hospitality School in Lausanne.
The dancing bears are made of gelatin, a specially designed gelatin that has very good flavor and consistency. They have inner tubes that can be pressurized by a pump. It's like a system of arteries in our bodies and the heart. And their bodies are made in such a way that they have special cuts and special thickness, so that when the corresponding arteries in the bears are inflated by the heart, the bear will tend to move in desired direction.
Sitting atop the cake are two robotic gummy bears made from gelatin and syrup that move via an internal pneumatic system. To power the LED candles on the cake, ILT researchers built the first edible rechargeable battery crafted from vitamin B2, quercetin, activated carbon, and dark chocolate. By replacing traditional electronics, the researchers say these components could help address the 40 million tons of annual electronic waste, while fully consumable parts would reduce food waste.
We are now also working on sensors that can be in future integrated into the smart piece to measure interesting electrophysiological parameters from the inside of our body. For example, a pH sensor, because, for example, when also eating, there are variation of pH in the stomach, which are interesting to be monitored to see how our assumption of the food is affecting our body.
Future applications include smart pills for health monitoring, such as pH sensors to track digestion. Other applications also include environmental monitoring, with edible robots assessing water or soil quality while providing wildlife nutrition.
Edible robotic wedding cake there. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Excellency the Foreign Minister confirms that the fourth round of the Iranian-American negotiations will start tomorrow in Muscat. Martyrs and wounded in Israeli shelling of various areas in the Gaza Strip, and the United Nations calls on the Security Council to urgently intervene to lift the blockade and end Israel's starvation policy in the Gaza Strip. And US President Donald Trump says that India and Pakistan have agreed to an immediate full ceasefire after an American mediation. And with that, as you can see, we do conclude this news bulletin. Thank you for joining us, and good night.